10 people vote to convict. You know the defendant is innocent, and you know exactly what will happen to you if you disagree. This is not a philosophy exercise. It's not a hypothetical scenario for a classroom debate. It's a situation that happens in real juries with real people every week. And the question is not whether you would do the right thing. The question is, what would you actually do with the real weight of 10 pairs of eyes on you, with the real cost of being the only different voice in a room that has already made up its mind? 3 levels. Each one tightens a different screw. And if you're honest about what comes up in each one, you'll understand something about yourself you would rather not name. Level 1. You are a juror in a criminal trial. The defendant is accused of a serious crime. Days of trial have passed. Testimony, evidence, arguments. Now it's time to deliberate. The jury room is closed. Just you and the other 11 jurors. The judge is waiting outside. 10 people vote guilty. You are the 11th, and you know he is innocent. You don't think so. You don't suspect it. You know it because during the trial you noticed a detail the others missed, a small, technical detail that went unnoticed by everyone else, but to you, it was undeniable. The defendant's alibi is real. He wasn't there. But now 10 people are staring at you. 10 people who spent days in this room, who want to go home, who already made their decision, and you are the only obstacle between them and the end of all this. What do you do? Don't tell me what you should do. Tell me what you would feel the exact moment 10 pairs of eyes waited for your answer. If your first impulse was to give in, maybe you'd think you could be wrong. Maybe the detail wasn't as definitive as it seemed. Maybe 10 people together see more clearly than one person alone. You found a way not to become the problem. Remember that. If your first impulse was to resist, but with your stomach tightening, you would vote not guilty, but at a real cost. Knowing the room would become heavy, that you would be questioned, pressured, treated like an obstacle. The conviction was there. The comfort was not. Remember that too. If your first impulse was cold clarity without hesitation, innocent is innocent, and you don't move a single inch no matter how many people disagree. Remember that. Don't dismiss what came up. It will matter more than you think in the end. Level 2, same room, same situation, but now you know more. After 2 hours of deliberation, one of the other jurors quietly pulls you aside and tells you that if the trial doesn't end today, if you force a hung jury and a retrial, the consequences will go beyond this room. This case has public attention, media coverage. Anyone who votes against the majority will have their name exposed, identified publicly, and face online pressure. It has happened before in similar cases. It's not a direct threat, it's information, but you understand exactly what is being said. You are still the only different vote. The defendant is still innocent, but now the cost of disagreeing has an address. It has consequences for your life outside this room, for your routine, for the people who depend on you and have nothing to do with this trial. What do you do now? The truth hasn't changed. The defendant didn't become less innocent between level 1 and this moment. But the weight on the other side became more concrete, more personal, more real than any abstract principle of justice you normally carry. If you felt your vote starting to loosen, not out of conviction but exhaustion, with the quiet realization that maybe an innocent person in prison is a cost the world absorbs, more easily than the cost you would personally have to pay, remember that. If you felt anger, not about giving in, but about the entire situation, the pressure, being placed in this position without asking for it, and inside that anger, a determination that used to be principle became something more personal, remember that too. If you felt the weight but didn't feel your vote move, not because of calculated heroism, but because of some internal impossibility to do otherwise, as if giving in were physically impossible regardless of the cost, remember that. Level 3, same room but the variables have changed again. And this time there is no position that doesn't cost something you can never get back. 8 hours of deliberation have passed. The room is tense, silent, exhausted. You are still the only different vote. And now one of the jurors tells you something nobody knew until this moment. The defendant has a 7-year-old daughter. If he is convicted, she will go into state custody because her mother died 2 years ago and there are no relatives to take her in. A 7-year-old child who will grow up in the system because of a crime her father did not commit. And then the same juror tells you the other half. If you give in now and vote guilty, he personally guarantees that he will start an appeal process. He has connections, resources, real influence. Within months, with new evidence, the defendant could be released. The daughter could get her father back, maybe with less total damage than if the trial deadlocks and drags on for another year. Or you keep your vote. The jury hangs. Everything starts over again. Another year. More exposure for you. More time without her father for her. And no guarantee the final outcome will be any different. There is no clean way out here. If you give in, you convict an innocent man based on a promise made by someone you met 8 days ago in a locked room. If you resist, you protect a principal while a 7-year-old girl begins tonight without her father because of a decision you could have made differently. What do you realize when you reach this point? You realize that in the first 2 levels you still had structure. In the first, the clarity of right and wrong acted like an anchor. In the second, the pressure became sharp and visible. You knew exactly what was being sacrificed and why. They were difficult, but they still had shape. Here, there is no shape. There is only you sitting in a chair inside a closed room, making a decision that will affect at least 2 lives in ways you cannot predict, with no option that leaves you fully on the right side of anything. And what you choose in this moment does not tell you whether you are brave or cowardly. It tells you something more specific and much harder to name. It tells you which costs you are capable of carrying, and which costs you allow someone else to pay without explicitly choosing it yourself. Because someone will pay. In every scenario, someone pays. The question is not who should pay. The question is who you allow to pay when the decision is yours. Time is up, and you can no longer pretend you are not the one choosing. And the gap between who you believe you are in a comfortable room, with time to think, and the freedom to defend principles without real cost, and who you are sitting in a jury chair at 8 p.m. with 10 pairs of eyes on you and a 7-year-old child at stake, that gap is your real character, not the version you present. The version that acts when presenting yourself is no longer an option. You may not have liked what you found here. Most people don't. But the fact that you reached the 3rd level without looking away means some part of you already knew you needed to sit with this. And wanting to sit with it, even when what you find has no beautiful solution. Even when the mirror shows neither a hero nor a villain, but something far harder to classify. That is the only thing separating people who truly examine their own minds from those who prefer the comfort of believing they already know what they would do. You thought you knew. Now you know better.